welcome. Dr. James Beckett, Sports Card Insights here with Rich Klein. We're going to talk about 84 Fleer. Actually, there's a couple sets there, the regular set and the update set. We're going to compare and contrast. We already did an episode that Rich and I enjoyed, that many of you enjoyed, on 84 Donruss. Also, there's a 84 Top set too, but we're going to focus on the 84 Fleer set. So I can't thank Fleer as a sponsor because Fleer is defunct. I guess there's still vestiges of some of these defunct brands.
Upper Deck owns the name.
As all, it just seems like there's some desire to keep them alive, but not in the same form that they were originally. But Fleer's a proud brand from 75 years.
Yeah, they started in the 20s and ended in 2005. They have more than an 80-year history.
Yeah, but anyway, we'll talk about 84 and thank sponsors: Topps, Panini, Upper Deck, Heritage Auctions, Huggins and Scott Auctions, as well as Burbank Sports Cards, Mike Stadium Sports Cards, ComC.com, and Beckett Media, Beckett Creating, Beckett Authentication. 84 Fleer, Rich, you were
a dealer.
You were a dealer. Were you working in a card shop in those days?
No, 84, I was working for a company called Sports Information Database, which was a wonderful concept, 25 years ahead of its time. Was basically designed to be what all the baseball, football references are today.
Well, it was without digital. I guess there was some computerization,
right? But
it wasn't as easily accessible.
Correct. And so that's what I mean by it was way ahead of its time. Really smart people working a lot of people my age. A lot of people had gone through the St. John's sports management program.
Right.
You know, we had some friends of mine from Columbia working there. We had former newspaper editors or sports writers. It was really, it was a great idea, but it was way too far ahead of its time.
Okay. So 84 Fleer, you got 81 Fleer, first baseball set for Fleer that was 660 cards, I guess. You got 82, 83. What's better about 84?
You know, I wanted to say, I feel
of the regular set.
84 is a very pretty set.
It's clean.
It's clean. And I feel sorry for 84 Fleer because it ended up coming out the same year as 84 Donruss. 84 Donruss is just so beautiful.
Which we're considering the set of the decade. Yeah.
And 84 Fleer is not a set of the decade.
Silver medalist?
It's definitely a bronze or a silver medalist. It's definitely way up there. It's a clean design. The photos are good. I mean, if you ever saw things like the 82 Fleer Jack Clark photo, you realize just how much progress Fleer made in 2 years. They had gotten rid of, the errors that were in 81 were gone. 83 is a pretty nice set. 84 was really a great step up.
Why did both Donruss and Fleer take this step up in 84? If you remember, which I know you do, I remember it very personally because 84 is the year Beckett Publications got started. And so it's interesting that 84, Beckett Publications got started, and that was a major, up to that point, Topps was always way ahead of Donruss and Fleer in the 81, 82, 83, when they were head-to-head competing. Topps 84, both Fleer and Donruss must have said in some way, we better get our act together. We got to step it up. And they really did.
And competition is good for the soul. A lot of times when you hear today people saying, I wish Upper Deck would do export, or I wish Topps would do export, or I wish Panini would do export, or Panini would get a baseball license so they could actually put the logos on. Because they do baseball with a player's license, which is perfectly fine. And competition was good because 83 Topps was by far the best of the 83 sets. It was reminiscent of the 63 set, the two photos. 84 Topps is not a bad set. It's just not as
They just rectangularized 83s.
Yes.
They put a square instead of a circle.
Exactly.
Kind of? And basically, I think 84 was still the inferior cardboard.
Yes, it still was. And 84.
So 84, Fleer and Donruss both upgraded their card stock. Topps being still gum and packs, I think, at that point.
Right. Topps
were limited in what they could do. So Mattingly was the big card.
Mattingly's the big card, as we've discussed with Donruss. Strawberry started off the year bigger, and then Mattingly took over as he wins the batting title in 84. And it's a very nice card of Don Mattingly. And it's actually a very nice card of Darryl Strawberry, so they're both very attractive. Thankfully, none of those rookie cards for any of the three companies are unattractive cards. Fortunately, they're all decent photos, decent design, pretty cool. But 84 does have, I believe it's the Glenn Hubbard snake card, which did
I think that was
I think that's the first year Fleer did something cool like that. They would throw one or two cards like that into each set. And that was the first year they did cards like that. And I think that was a step up just to get them a little extra publicity. That's a better gimmick. I'll use the word gimmick. There may be a better word than the errors of the early 80s because it's a cool.
It's buzzworthy.
Yes, buzzworthy
even for that. Okay, so I got another question for you, just because you don't. I think the listeners know we don't really script these. So Rich does. It's kind of like dueling questions because I don't know what Rich is going to say. Rich doesn't know what I'm going to say. The third best rookie in the set. If you count Strawberry as number 2, even though he had the 83 tops.
Until you get to the update, which we'll discuss in a minute, Tony Fernandez.
Okay, that's not a bad answer, but I'm suggesting Andy Van Slyke.
That would have been my fourth answer.
Okay. And so my question to you is, you've got Mattingly and Strawberry, both heavily New York. Andy Van Slyke, not New York. He's out in the burbs. He's in the Midwest with all of his teams, and he was a really good player. If he'd have been in New York, what do you think would have happened?
I think he would have been a player.
He's already popular.
I think he would have been Kevin McReynolds squared. Kevin McReynolds comes to the Mets
a little bit more longevity.
And Kevin McReynolds comes to the Mets in '87. Yeah. I think Van Slyke would have already had those 3 or 4 years in New York, and then just would have kept going from there. So I think he wouldn't be on the Mattingly and Strawberry level, but he wouldn't be very far behind Strawberry. He might even be tied.
Well, he was steadier. I mean, he wasn't as flashy, but he was solid. He really could do it all, I think.
He might be tied with Strawberry. I mean, it'd be close.
Okay, so are we saying, because I also did an episode on a ripple effect, when Mattingly goes up, he's no longer tied to Strawberry. I don't know who he's tied to. He just has his own following and all that. But Van Slyke is, you either like him or you don't. You don't think, well, he's undervalued, unless you saw him play and said, people like the way he played and the fact that he was clutch, I think.
Yeah, and he played in the playoffs for the Pirates. Yeah. In fact, he was the one the Pirates chose to sign for the long-term contract. So they thought a lot about him too, but about age 32, 33, he did start sliding off the cliff a little earlier than either Bonilla or Bonds, the other options the Pirates had for the long-term contract. But Van Slyke played center field, and usually center fielders are your key position.
You move to the corners
right.
when you can't cover as well. Let's move to the update set, because Topps had been doing these extended traded rookie sets in the boxes, and Fleer sort of copied them, but sort of took it to another level. I mean, it's the best of those sets. So what was it? The production being less? Production being less,
and they got really lucky.
They struck it rich on the player
selection. Because you knew Gooden in '84 is going to be in both sets. Good in 17 and 9.
Well, he
has all those strikeouts. I mean, he's Dr. K already in '84. I mean, he's the key to both sets.
He was the key when the Beckett publication started.
Right.
And it was like, oh man, if anything ever happened to him, what would we do?
Well,
wait a few years.
Wait a few years for Kirby Puckett and Roger Clemens to explode in 1986, and voila, both of them explode on the hobby scene really in '86. Right. Kirby Puckett hits like 26 homers in '86 after having like 4 his first 2 years in the majors combined. Clemens goes 24-4 in '86, and all of a sudden the set, which had been maybe a $30, $40 set, it was more expensive always than Topps, all of a sudden becomes a $200 set, a $300 set, a $400 set.
Because of the player selection.
Because
the '84 extended set is still a good set. It's still a good set. It's just not as good. And I've even been able to sell commons.
And you even have people like John Franco, who has a rookie card in '84 Fleer update. I don't believe he's in '84 Topps traded. I mean, even on that level, they did a better.
So they were smart.
Smart.
They did some homework about that. I was just thinking of a theory that comes up in some of these things, is that we have players that are absolutely Hall of Famers and players that are most likely they're not going to be Hall of Famers, but they still have a following. And my question to you, my thought process is this: I'm wondering if these players that have a following, who are not in the Baseball Hall of Fame, like Andy Van Slyke, are probably in at least one, like the Pirates Hall of Fame. In other words, they have to have either regional popularity or some kind of popularity. They're not one of the very top players in baseball, but they're memorable for the fans who watch them play in their city. Or St. Louis. He might be in that one too. I don't know.
Okay, and I'm bringing up John Franco.
And Franco would be a great example.
Is a New York.
He's probably not going to make the Hall of Fame. But on stats,
he's actually borderline.
Strong. Yeah.
On stats, he's borderline. Born in the New York area, spent most of his career pitching for the Mets. He's got enough there where if he sneaks in one day as a Veterans Committee player, that's a card that can skyrocket for the '84 Fleer update, and with good reason.
Because there are not that many.
Correct. Yeah. And they're undervalued right now, I think.
Puckett and Clemens are kind of the same value in the set, according to the OPG.
And rightly so.
You don't prefer one over the other?
They're different. Clemens was probably a more dominant player at his position, and obviously for a longer time. But during his career, Kirby Puckett was so much more popular that, plus he carried the Twins basically to 2 World Series. By the time Clemens wins his World Series with the Yankees, he's an important cog, but he's not the youthful fireballer he was with the '86 Red Sox.
Well, he's a controversial figure.
And he's a controversial figure. And Puckett is, whatever happened to Kirby Puckett, he's just beloved. And that's why I don't have a problem with their cards being the same, because how many, there were tons of his teammates that named their kids Kirby in Minnesota after him, just like there were tons of kids who played with the New York Giants. They didn't name their kids after Frank Gifford. They named their kids after Kyle Rote. They loved Kyle Rote. The teammates loved him. He was a beloved figure.
Right.
And so we've talked about this in the past. Being a beloved figure gives you a boost sometimes, even over your playing ability. Don Mattingly's a beloved figure in New York. We talked about Thurman Munson.
Right.
He was beloved in my generation.
I know, but to be beloved in Minnesota is more challenging to expand that. But he was a very popular guy, and dying early, I don't know that helped him.
It didn't hurt.
But it just, he's gone and not forgotten.
And the other thing is, frankly, he looks like you and me to some extent. He
looks like a regular guy.
He looks like a regular guy.
Well, he looks like a retired guy.
Yes. He looks like the guy in the softball field that comes up and hits 3 homers with
waddles to first base.
Waddles to first, yes.
Right. Well, he's gone now, so we don't want to stay positive. Tell him, but he was.
But that is positive.
He was fun to watch.
But that's positive.
But Roger Clemens at his best was fun to watch, just mowing down, 20 strikeouts and all that stuff. And Gooden at his peak was as dominant as Sandy Koufax or anybody.
Gooden 24-4 in 1985, the year before Clemens explodes. He's 41-13 at the end of the first 2 years in his major. He may have been overworked a little in those years, but. My God, I remember watching those games on TV and going to a couple in person in those days. He
was almost unhittable.
He was unhittable. It's an experience watching him.
Yeah. Any other sleepers in the 84 Fleer update set? Like I said, what happens when you have these box sets, if there's nobody great in the set, the box set stays as a box set. And then it's hard to get the commons because people aren't busting them out because they came that way. But when one guy hits it, and really the first guy to hit it was Gooden. Once you pull the Gooden out, which now is not the best card, but it was, then you're left with this incomplete set. And I have this theory, if I have a set and it's missing one common card, people might, especially in the days of Beckett Marketplace and ComC, you could sell it to somebody, it's missing a card, and you could fill in that card. But it's missing the best card in the set. It's not a partial set anymore. It's a, it's a group. That's not easily put into a complete set. So.
Well, it's like 89. Let's go to 89 score football. Once you pull out the Barry Sanders, okay, then you pull out a Troy Aikman.
Right.
Then you pull out the Derek Thomas. Then you pull out the Michael Irvin, Deion Sanders. Yeah. So why not just break the set?
No, I've got a set. It's only missing 5 cards.
Right.
See, if you say that, it's a recipe for getting people mad at you. Yeah, just missing 5 cards. Not sure which ones they are. Yeah. But anyway,
it's like 66 Topps football missing number 15, the funny ring checklist.
The funny ring, which actually you could make a case that really doesn't even belong.
Right.
It has no nexus to the set, in a sense, other than it was in those packs. In fact, when people get it, they think this is a mistake.
Yeah.
It's a mistake. It's a checklist for a different product.
Now that would be worthy of an episode by itself. Weird cards put into packs.
Well, that's one of the weirder ones, but it just shows that 84 Fleer is the update set, probably the most successful update set. It's the gold standard for the 80s.
It's the update set of the 80s. Yeah. It's the pride. It may not have had the super best players, but it had pretty good players. 86 has a whole bunch of really good players in it.
But that's way more produced.
84 is not as heavily produced, and with those 3 keys that we've talked about, it's a fun set.
Yeah. Which you still see.
Yes.
So let's end on a positive note. They're still available. Not readily available. I didn't see,
and not inexpensive.
It's not cheap, but you can occasionally see in some of the auctions and on eBay. You can see a set here and a set there, or groups of cards, and they're available. So, again, great trip down memory lane. Thanks, Rich. Thanks, listeners. 1984 Fleer. Its only crime is it perhaps wasn't as good as, or now as highly regarded as 84 Donruss, but still a great set in its own right. So, thanks. Be back tomorrow. Another episode.